Hey class, today we're going to be talking about opposites, okay? Opposites of numbers, okay? Opposites of numbers. And so what we're first going to talk about is the different terms that we used when we were talking about the real number system, right? And so we're going to talk about those first, and then we're going to lead into the definition or how we can understand what opposites are, and then we're going to get into some examples, okay? So the first term we're going to talk about when we talked about the real number system was the natural numbers, okay? The natural numbers. So we're going to talk about that first. Here we go. Okay, so the natural numbers, right? The natural numbers started with what number? The natural numbers started with what number? 1, right? Start with the number 1. So here we go. So we got 1. And then we're going to draw our number line. We're going to actually talk about these in terms of number lines because we're going to use number lines a lot. When we're talking about, just different types of numbers and everything. We're going to be using those a lot. So again, natural numbers start with the number 1, and it continues on forever. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and forever, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way forever to infinity, right? Until a long time, right? So again, that's the natural numbers. Then after we talked about the natural numbers, we talked about the whole numbers, right? And so the whole numbers start with what number? 0, right? Start with the number 0. So let's go ahead and write those down. So that was the natural numbers. Okay? Natural numbers. Now we're going to talk about the whole numbers. Try this off a little bit. Now the whole numbers, we said start with 0. So here's our beginning point. And again, it continues on forever. And again, just like before, but this time we start with 0 and then 1, which again, that's where the natural numbers start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way to infinity, right? Those are the whole numbers. Okay, so that's the whole numbers. Now, after the whole numbers, we talked about what? The integers, right? We talked about the integers, so let's go ahead and do that. Right, and so we're going to talk about the integers. Now, the integers are important because we're going to get into those pretty soon when we're adding and subtracting these numbers together. So we've got to really understand what the integers are. Remember, the integers are what, and what. Do we remember? Well, it's the negatives, negative whole numbers, right? 0 and all the positive, you can say natural numbers, or all the positive whole numbers, however you want to say it. But remember, there are no decimals, there are no fractions in the integers. Not even negative decimals, negative fractions. No decimals, no fractions in the integers, just negative whole numbers, 0, and all the positive whole numbers. Here we go. Now, this number line is not going to have a beginning dot, right? This number line is actually going to have arrows going in both directions. Okay, what that means is you have a negative direction and you have a positive direction. And we're going to be talking about these directions, so it's good to know that the left goes in the negative direction and the right goes in the positive direction. Okay, it's good to know that. It's good to have that in your mind already. Remember, integers has 0, right? All the negatives, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, right? It also has all the positives, zeros, zeros in the middle. We have all the positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all of these. Also, all this arrow again, this arrow includes negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, all the way to negative infinity, 7, 8, 9, 10, positive, all the way to positive infinity, all the way forever, right? That's what these arrows mean. Right? These arrows mean continue on forever. Okay, they go on for how long? Forever, right? And so again, we've just described the natural numbers, the whole numbers, the integers. Now, talking about the rational numbers, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. This is a number line representation of the integers, okay? And actually, we can actually use this number line to talk about the integers, right? The rational numbers. The rational numbers, it's really difficult to draw the rational numbers in a number line. Why? Because there are so many. Just between 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1, we have all bunch of numbers. When we're talking about the rational numbers, and actually, let me just look at. We actually erase it. Let's erase it because we need to talk about that. There's so many numbers for the rational numbers, right? And again, it's hard to draw exactly how many because there's so many. There are so many rational numbers, right? And so, like let's say, for instance, we're talking about the rational numbers. Because we are. And all I'm going to draw is 0, positive 1, and negative 1. Well, there are so many numbers between 0 and 1. There's 1/2. There's 1/4. There's 3/4, right? There's so many numbers. See, that was just 3 numbers right there. But again, there's 9/8. There's 1/8. There's 1/7. There's 3/7. There's 5/15. 5/16. 12/15. So many different types of numbers just between 0 and 1. Again, remember, we can throw out any decimals in here. We can throw out any fractions in here, right? That are between 0 and 1. Again, these would all be proper fractions, right? Between 0 and 1 would be proper fractions. Between 0 and negative 1 would be negative proper fractions, right? And so you've heard that term before, proper fraction. Proper fraction means between 0 and 1. Improper fraction means greater than 1, right? So just remember that also. You got to keep that in mind. But again, that's why we have a hard time drawing the rational numbers. Most of the time when we talk about rational numbers on number line, we'll actually have them dashed off with the numbers that we need in order to represent the number we're talking about. But again, we're going to go ahead and stop here, and then in the next video, part 2, we're going to go ahead and start talking about definitions and things like that. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys.